Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's Xbox Factor podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL, and with me, as always, you know him as someone that is dying to play the next Silent Hill game in VR and prove how brave of a gamer he actually is. No, I'm just kidding, but he is one of the finest parts of this show. He's obviously been with this particular podcast for quite some time, and he does amazing work on his YouTube channel. But not only that, he's one outstanding community member. Zemi Games, welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you so much, Boom. Looking forward to the show. Last Tuesday's show was absolutely fantastic, but so much big Xbox news broke here in like the last couple of days, which was super convenient for this podcast because sometimes, it just sucks, right? Whenever like the big news breaks on Friday and then we have to wait the entire week to talk about it. So I just cannot wait to jump into the news and talk about all these big stories that happened here recently.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks again. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Today's going to be a show packed with news. And the other co-host, you know him as the London Gamer, a.k.a. the Welsh Gamer. Unfortunately, due to family obligations, could not make today's show. He will be back in his in his regular seat next week. But we do have an incredible guest making his first appearance on the Xbox Factor podcast. And I'm proud to announce or introduce a gamer that I had a pleasure of meeting during E3 2019, someone that I've been looking to guest on this particular podcast. He's a full-time Twitch streamer who says, don't get boxed in. Please welcome Stragilla. What's up, dude?
It's Staggerilla, but that was
Staggerilla. Okay.
No problem. Welcome. Thank you for having me. I've looked forward to getting on your show since we met at E3, which was a fantastic time.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say I'm a full-time streamer. I stream 2 to 3 hours a day and then do my family life stuff. But I'm excited to be here and excited to talk about the topics you have on hand.
Well, listen, it's great to have you on the show finally. And yes, E3 2019 was unbelievable. FanFest is where we met, and that was really something that if you're an Xbox fan, you have to try and get out to E3 to experience. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Microsoft as a company really goes beyond the extra mile for their fan base during this particular event. And it's something that, again, if you are a diehard Xbox fan and you want to feel like a complete rock star, that is exactly how Microsoft makes you feel. But, again, let's get into why we're all here. First of all, there has been some tremendous leaks concerning the Xbox Series X and S. That's been the talk of social media in the last 48 something hours. And some of YouTube's biggest content creators have been discussing it. And being that we're here to, talk about some of these huge rumors. Where do we find these? Well, like most of these rumors that come out, either it's going to come out from the 4chan forums, or more specifically, this one, Reddit. And obviously, you have to take a lot of these things with a grain of salt because, we don't know who's exactly leaking them. Sometimes there's some truth to them. Sometimes it's exaggeration for clicks. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. But we're going to break down exactly what this leak said. And this is how it actually started on Reddit. It's the poster said, I have some friends that work at Microsoft, at the marketing team at Xbox, and they told me that this is going to be a crazy E3. There are 3 big things the Xbox will show off besides price, the date, and Xbox Lockhart, and they say coming in 2021. See, immediately I believe that is incorrect, simply because it wouldn't make any sense for them to wait until next year to release the lower price console when they're trying to, snag that casual gaming market that, ruled the roost for Sony during this particular generation. But this is where they go into some more specifics, which I would like to talk about. They say more studios. They're going to talk about New Japan besides the studio that they bought. Don't know who it is, but my friends hinted that it's From Software. Also, they're buying 2 more. One in Poland, not CD Projekt Red, and the other one from Canada. Now, the reason why I want to go immediately, Stagarilla jumped out and now he's back in. Okay, here he is. Zemi, I want to go to you first because you and I agreed that we think that the Poland studio could potentially be People Can Fly, right? We know that they've worked with them before, but you yourself deducted a fantastic theory for the studio in Canada. Why don't you tell the listeners exactly what you're thinking?
Yeah, so as soon as like this leak broke, I had to put on my hat and start researching Canadian developers, and I found one developer, and it's really, really interesting. They're called Skybox Labs, and they have done a ton of work for Xbox and Microsoft in the past. They collaborated on a Kinect game. They co-developed an expansion for Age of Empires 2 HD, and in addition to that, they also worked on or helped work on Minecraft as well as Halo. And they also are located in, I think, Burnaby, or I think it's called Burnaby, which is like right next to Vancouver, which I believe is where the Coalition is based in. And so they're super, super close to the Xbox headquarters. And with like such, I guess, such a relationship with Xbox, and it doesn't really seem like they're that huge of a studio, I think Xbox might be definitely looking to scrounge them up.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, it like I said, one of the talking points that most of the gaming media will immediately point to when you talk about the Xbox brand is the lack of reach for other parts of the world. It's been a criticism that Phil Spencer has discussed publicly during a lot of the interviews. And as we're starting to see, this is a bit of a different Microsoft. This is a Microsoft that post to E3 2018 has changed ideologies, and I believe that they are in a position now where nothing, of course, is guaranteed, but they are aligning themselves to win. Not to come in second place, not to be a part of the conversation, but to actually win the next generation. Now, obviously, we can't tell based on just the moves that have been made, because we're going to have to see the console up and running. We're going to have to see the first party exclusives. But Stagrilla, I want to go to you next on this, because the reach of Microsoft, even though they do very well here in North America, has been limited for many years because of failures especially in the Asian region, Japan more specifically. And in this particular leak, they talk about New Japan, and New Japan is no longer a console-based, region. They are portable gamers that they play on their phones, they play on their tablets, and obviously with the creation of Project X Cloud, it seems as if Microsoft is going to be targeting this particular type of audience. What are your thoughts about them going to Poland, possibly going there? Phil Spencer's currently in Japan, and he's talking to the developers there. We know that he's been to France. Do you think that they're trying to have that overall, mind share the same way Sony's PlayStation 4 does?
I mean, obviously, I feel like they are pushing all the markets as much as they can, and like xCloud and streaming gaming moving forward and the subscription-based services to get their ecosystem on more devices and not just being stuck on a console is where they're moving. And that's going to be a great way to attack those Asian markets, because as you just stated, I mean, like China and Japan are huge into mobile gaming on their phones and tablets. I mean, it's a very ridiculously big market. And I don't think it's just them that it's going to be a big market. And I think worldwide, as we progress, we're going to move more and more away from consoles. Consoles are always going to have a place for gamers. I mean, I think it's great to have them, but getting your product where the people are playing the most in the future is going to be where you win. I think. I don't think hardware. I mean, we all know you lose money on the consoles. So
Right.
if you don't have to sell somebody a $400 or $500 device that, I mean, is going to lose you 100 to 200 or whatever amount of dollars, wherever that might be. If they already have, say, once they get it up on the iPhones or on the Android or whatever tablet you have, and all you have to do is pay a whatever currency you live in, $15 a month subscription fee to access 80 to 200 games, and games that come out, new studio games that come out day one on that subscription service. I don't honestly know how people are going to say no to that. I mean, as long as they have the studios to back it up, which really, I mean, we know they've bought in 14 studios. That's what they're at right now.
Yes.
Or is it
Well, they're
like
at a
that?
total. They're at a total. I mean, they say that it's a total of 15 when you
Okay,
count.
I knew it was like 14 or 15,
Yeah.
and they're always looking to add more. I mean, we're pretty sure they're going to either build or buy a Japanese studio.
Correct.
And, the Polish thing's happening. We don't know what it is, but something's happening. They are hitting, in my opinion, every single angle they possibly can going into the next gen. I'm not convinced they will ever win. Not ever, but will win the console war of sales. Because Sony has such an entrenched base, which is great. You know what I mean? But they're not. I don't. We all don't think. I don't think. Excuse me. I don't think most of us think that Xbox is pushing to win that sector. They're pushing to win financially.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, we've heard Mike Ybarra talk about it before, where it's just like, it's not about consoles anymore. It's about playing in the ecosystem. And I firmly believe that's the truth.
You know what? I would agree with you, because you see, there is a notion, and I don't want to use the word ignorant. I want to use the word uninformed. To be politically correct, because I don't want to. If someone is in a belief of this, I don't want them to be like, "Oh, hey, boom, to call me an ignoramus." No, I think the uninformed opinion, especially on social media, is that the industry is built and taken down by the fact of how many consoles you sell. Now, in retrospect, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, that mattered, because on those consoles is where this people, or the gamers, us, we played those games. So software sales were a big attachment per console. In 2020, in 2020, where we are now, like you were saying, streaming is here to stay. Project X Cloud is, in fact, the real deal. They just opened it up to the world if you're a part of the program. They just added a dozen new games, bringing it up to 84 plus games available to play for free if you're a part of the program. iOS is coming early 2020. We know that. So they're eventually going to get onto iPhones, which is going to double, triple the amount of people playing it. And then I would imagine that by the year's end, when the consoles launch, there'll be a full-on launch with this. And the uninformed opinion, I believe, is that people continue to tout, well, we have 106 million consoles and the Xbox has 22. We only sold 22. Besides Phil's grandma and his parents buying it, no one else bought Xboxes, according to social media, which of course is wrong. I honestly, as a content creator who does a lot of reading, when I see these things, I don't even bother responding anymore, because you're never going to change someone's mind. If that's what they believe, then that's fine. That's what they believe. But it's funny, there's a particular part of this leak that's very important and worth talking about, because the Japanese studio, now I don't remember the gentleman's name in the chat. He says, why, his question was, why do Xbox gamers feel that Microsoft needs Japan to win? And it's not so much that they need Japan to hashtag win. The Japanese gaming that you find on the PlayStation, you do not find, or you weren't finding, on the Xbox brand. Now, it may not be your kind of genre. Maybe the anime type Japanese games are not for you, and that's perfectly fine. Not every game is for every gamer. That's perfectly fine. But there are a ton of people, gamers, that enjoy JRPGs. And if Microsoft can get those same developers to put games onto the Xbox platform the same way they're doing for Sony, you're going to have more sales for said company and genre type. What's great is that there is an ideology that Microsoft walked away from in the Xbox 360 era, where they made a lot of second-party deals that were exclusives for the 360, and they did very well. And based on this leak, we're going to get to that in a second. I just want to read exactly what Phil Spencer said on Twitter, and then I'll get Zemi. I'll go to you and get your opinion about the Japanese market and whether or not you feel it's important. This is what Phil said. This was just, I believe, this on Monday morning. He says, "Great to be back in Japan. The team is talking and listening to amazing studios and publishers about 2020 and beyond. Really strong energy and excitement here about gaming's future." Now, obviously, some people may take that as, well, that's just a corporate speak. Boom. He has to say that. But this is, from what we understand, he's been to Japan in the last 2 years almost a dozen times. He's not going out there because he wants the, sake from the source. He's going out there to make deals. You understand? So, Zemi, when you see this and you hear this, what are your thoughts on him traveling so much back and forth to Japan? And what exactly do you think that it means?
Well, I think he really is trying to get the sake from the source. No, I think it very much indicates that he has a huge interest in the Japanese market, and he sees that as a definite future for the Xbox brand. He knows that he needs to get he needs to get a Japanese developer, or he needs to create one, and he needs to get more Japanese inspired games over to the Xbox platform for two reasons. People that live, in the West want to play that style of games, but also because they plan on pushing into the Japanese market. And it's going to be a lot easier if they have, games of closer to what they could recognize to get them interested to jumping into the product. Because, a lot of Japanese people may not be interested in Halo. They may not be interested in Gears. A lot of them probably would, but if you could get, a AAA, JRPG, or just anything, even like a Dark Souls kind of style game, and you could have that as like an Xbox exclusive, that's going to get a lot more Japanese people in, and that's super important for Xbox, of course, because they want to grow their brand, they want to make as much money as possible, but it should also be important to the fans and to just Xbox players as well, because the more money Xbox makes, the more success they have, the more willing they're going to be to make more risks going into the future that, benefit players, to make more games, to buy more studios. And at the end of the day, we win. If Xbox wins, we win as well.
Yes. That's
and, I also kind of, so I guess ultimately what I'm saying is that the Japanese market is critically important for Xbox to jump into, and they seem to be doing it right because, with the xCloud being able to play games on your mobile devices, that is such a huge advantage, because what that's going to allow Xbox to do in that market is say, hey, you don't have to buy a $300 console. You don't have to buy a $500 console. All you have to do is, pay a low monthly fee, and you have access to 80, or 200 plus games if they add Game Pass onto xCloud as well. And the barrier of entry is so much lower. I think it's going to see a lot of success there. And that's a big reason why I think, xCloud is such a fantastic move for that region. But also I wanted to also talk a little bit about the console war, if you will, like the success of Xbox being based wholly on their console sales, and everybody talking about console sales and all this different stuff. And in this last generation, I think it was still important. Whoever sold the most consoles was seen as the more critically successful company, and that was true this generation. But it's changing, because the gaming industry has never really been about how many consoles you could sell. It's been about how many players you can bring. And the console sales was always the metric that we judged that on. But now with the new technology, with streaming, with services and stuff like that, with playing on your mobile device, which is what Xbox is jumping into, they stand a chance to have way more players on their platform than Sony ever thought about, right?
And Game Pass PC, don't forget that.
Absolutely. And so PlayStation very much, and I believe that PlayStation will outsell the Xbox on consoles, but Xbox will have way more players than Sony does, because the barrier of entry is so much lower than what Sony is providing. So like the whole metric of success, basing it solely on console sales is just not accurate anymore. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say on that.
No, I mean, that's a great point. And Stag, really, I want to come back to you on this because you mentioned something while Zemi was talking, and I want you to elaborate on that, because we cannot discount how important Xbox Game Pass on PC is. And the fact that, again, we know we have an idea of how Project xCloud works. We understand, and we have heard rumors that it's going to be baked right into the Xbox Ultimate Xbox Game Pass, which is $15 a month. When that happens, if that happens, the amount of gamers that are going to be now privy to just hit an app on their phone and play where they want to play without actually, like Zemi was saying, have to spend the $300 or $500 on a console unless they want to. And again, in the Asian market, not just Japan, but especially in China, console gaming has completely gone out the window. Now, that's why the Nintendo Switch is so popular there, because it's that gaming on the go that they're enjoying. But they play a lot on their phones and on other mobile devices, such as tablets. And again, I'm not saying that Microsoft is going to come flying in there and take over the world, but there's an option. And because there's no big console, that you have to spend money on this large amount of money on a console you may not use, with only $15 a month, that could attract more players. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, they're gonna attract more players. I feel like the PC market, like take PC bars in China, for instance. I mean, there's tons of internet, places, like, because I mean, space is a premium in these Asian households. Like their houses are smaller typically. Like they live in compact areas. So having, not saying consoles are big, especially since we've seen the new tower of the Xbox. That's not that huge, but space is a premium. Having things in your house is a premium. Going out to these internet provided cafes and stuff and playing there has become a huge thing. I mean, there's tons of internet videos on YouTube of people like basically living in these internet cafes.
Yeah,
and so if you can play these games right there with your subscription service, and not only play it there, but play it mobilely, like, why have a console? I mean, and that feeds into the whole, like, oh, Xbox is turning into a third-party developer argument that I see people say a lot, and it's just silly. I don't really feel like Xbox is going the route of Sega, but I don't know. I mean, I really feel like having the games in the Windows ecosystem, which includes Xbox and PC, and now going forward the xCloud, is a brilliant move. It's giving gamers more options, and it's giving Xbox/Microsoft more revenue at streams to profit off of. That makes sense.
No, it actually makes perfect sense, as a matter of fact. And I think you broke it down in a way that's very understandable without trying to flame any of the nonsense console war shenanigans that goes on. Real quick, I just have to thank a couple of people. First of all, Chaos Might drops a $2 super chat, and he says, shout out to Boomstick and his great content. Well, first of all, thanks for that. The compliment is worth $1 million. As a content creator, when you hear people say nice things like that, trust me, is really great to hear. Thanks for being here, dude. LMNOPO with the $5 super chat. He says Japanese means Game Pass. Japanese games there are and possible exclusives here. It's possible, and we don't know. Mr. Tushy drops a $2 super chat. He says 200 watching, which I didn't even notice. Hit that like button, and yes, please hit that like button. And Sir Gallahan with the $2 super chat, he says excited for Housemarque and Blue Point's PS5 titles. Yes, I would have to say that I love Housemarque. I think that they don't get enough credit for some of the work that they've done. And Blue Point, I mean, what could you say about them? We know that, well, we don't know. We've heard rumors that one of those Blue Point PlayStation 5 launch titles is, of course, one of the Souls games. The first one, Demon Souls, I believe. And the second one, I'm still crossing my fingers that it's going to be Metal Gear Solid redone in Resident Evil type love and caring. But again, we don't know. But, getting back to this leak, and this is where we're going to go a little. I don't think we're going off the rails. Again, we're just reading directly from the leak, and we'll get the panel's opinion. They say that exclusive deals are coming, and apparently Microsoft is going all in with this one. They have marketing and exclusive content deals from Rocksteady's new game. They also have exclusive content for Cyberpunk 2077 and are announcing a CD Projekt Red announcing that CD Projekt Red's next game, which is Witcher based, is going to be marketed and pushed heavily by Microsoft. They're also going to be revealing a new Quantic Dreams game that has no release date, but it's going to be a teaser trailer. And he says, that's all I know, but they told me that there's more than a deal going on with publishers like Rockstar, Ubisoft, and EA, plus a lot of indie studios. Now, again, one of the things I thought missing, at least early on from the Xbox One generation, was these marketing deals that they were known for, and obviously we saw a significant amount in 2019. I mean, just about every game, every big AAA game somehow or another was marketed by Microsoft, and we saw that starting to come into fruition a little bit in late 2018, and they went all through 2019 with marketing deal after marketing deal. Stagorilla, I want to get your opinion on this. Now, obviously, some people will disagree, and I think Zemi's actually might be one of them. He doesn't like seeing content held from other gamers on other platforms. But obviously, Microsoft is a business and they have to attract eyes onto their platform. And the way they did it very well was during the 360 era. Do you agree that they should return to form and once again have exclusive content as well as exclusive, DLCs based on marketing deals?
I'm not a big fan of exclusive content.
Okay, talk about it, please. By all means,
if a game is going to be exclusive to your platform, fine, then sure, that's great. But if it's a multi-platform game, I'm not a fan of timed exclusives. I mean, I get and I understand why it's done, and I understand the business side of it. But as a consumer and a gamer, I feel it does a disservice to all of us, especially like, say, the ones that, I'm fortunate. A lot of us are fortunate. Not everyone is, to be able to own multiple platforms. I mean, I have them all. I have old consoles. I have a high-end gaming PC and all that stuff. So timed content doesn't affect me personally. But for those people out there that can only afford a PS4 or an Xbox or, a Switch or a PC, if you can afford a gaming PC, you can afford a console. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. But I get why they're doing it, and it does attract eyes to your platform because you've got this exclusive thing, and come play it over here because they're not going to have it for a year, But I just don't like the business tactic. I want on multi-platform games that we all have the same thing, and then it really gives it I guess not businesses are not fair playing fields. You know what I mean? And that you
Right.
got to have a competitive edge. You've got to make money. You've got to attract eyes on your product. And I understand that. I just don't think as consumers, it's the best thing for us.
Well,
So,
you know what? I would
I'd like
agree
to
with
see
you.
less of it.
No, you know what? I agree with you because when I was playing Destiny and PlayStation had exclusive guns, exclusive missions, an exclusive strike. I didn't care so much about that. You had a scarf that was polka dots with, that didn't bother me. It was
Exclusive
not.
clothes and shit like that, guns, I don't care, but it like exclusive levels, that really bothers me.
Yeah, no, I actually
Sorry,
would.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but
No. By all means, this is a conversational podcast, my friend. No, it's perfectly okay. That's and I agree with you on that aspect. The content per se, not a big fan of the content. But I will say that to get exclusive games like they did with the 360, in order to and let them take on the publishing aspect of said game that may or may not have been published because it's a smaller company and it winds up being a good a fantastic game that's well received commercially and financially, I actually don't have a problem with. Zemi, I know you want to elaborate on this particular subject because we were talking privately, but I have to thank Chaos Mite once again for the $5 super chat, and he says God of War dev blames Xbox for the delay of Cyberpunk 2077. Now, listen, we're not going to get too much into that on this particular program because it is a topic of discussion for tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom. We're going to go heavy on it. From what we understand and what has been said, there was some mistranslation where some people are just saying that it's just the OG Xbox, the Xbox One Fat. That's the reason why that it's being delayed, when in fact that's not in fact the truth. It's both vanilla PlayStation 4 as well as vanilla Xbox, fatback. That supposedly is why the game is being developed. But like I said, we're going to go into real big details on tomorrow morning's show. But Zemi, you obviously, you've been very vocal, being on this show about how you don't like the exclusive content, even games for that matter. You want everyone to play. What are your thoughts on Microsoft changing their stance and possibly going the exclusive route with some games?
Well, I don't like it. I guess we're kind of talking about like them going like second party, like if they publish the game and stuff. But like if it was like a third party game that they just had the marketing rights to, I'm perfectly fine with marketing rights. I don't like exclusive content, and you can have the marketing rights without taking exclusive content. I mean, it's been done on previous games before. But like if you get like the marketing rights for Call of Duty or something like that, then you're usually going to get the exclusive content as well. And I do not like the exclusive content. Having clothing or something like that, having like a character skin, that's one thing. But whenever you start taking game modes out of the game and giving it to one platform and not the other, or specific missions, strikes, and Destiny, whatever it may be, I think that's whenever it goes way too far. But as far as marketing deals, I do think that they are important. Whenever Grand Theft Auto comes out, if Xbox lands a marketing deal with Rockstar, it's going to be really, really important for during the advertisements. At the end of the the Rockstar advertisement for Grand Theft Auto 6, and they put best played on the Xbox, right? I mean, that's it's just going to help them, right? So I mean, marketing deals are very, very important for either platform. I don't like the exclusive content, but I do think that that making those marketing deals and paying for them is important. I just kind of hope that Xbox kind of steers away from the exclusive content as far as like missions and actual in-game content, not skins or whatever, but actual like in-game content that people on other platforms would want to play. I do hope that they steer away from that, but they do need marketing deals.
Well, and I would agree. I don't know. I think I'm on the same level as everyone when I say that it would be really shitty to take away an entire level. And again, I felt the same way when I was playing Destiny. I didn't want to play on the PS4. I wanted to play where my friends list was more stout, and because I cared about achievements more than I care about trophies. And I eventually double dip and play Destiny 1 and 2 for that matter on the PS4. Yeah, a little bit, but I enjoyed it better on the Xbox. And it was crummy to be boxed out from having a weapon that was actually pretty damn good, and you didn't get it for a year. So I definitely agree, but I kind of want to move on to when they start talking about the launch titles in this particular leak. And they said there are 3 big ones, and here they are. Halo Infinite, again, folks, we kind of knew this already. No big deal there. That's a safe pick. He says Forza Motorsport 8, which I've been calling for a while. Our good friend of the show, Randall Thor 19, had believed that it was going to be Horizon 5. And recently he changed his stance on that, bringing it back around to Forza Motorsport 8. And this is where it gets into speculation town / getting me excited and hot in the pants. Perfect Dark reboot made by both Rare and the Coalition, all coming at launch subject to change. And this is why, if you remember, maybe about a year ago, there had been, it might even be more, it might be 14, might be 16, might even be 18 months ago. There was a job listing for the Coalition, and there was talk that it was possibly concerning their development of Perfect Dark, which again now again this particular rumor has been, the flame has been sparked, and even Randall Thor, a good friend of the show, had been recently talking about that in one of his videos where he's gotten some information that the Coalition did in fact and are working on something, and they did mention Perfect Dark, and also which is pretty interesting is that they're looking to kind of put Gears 6 on the back burner to do something different, to give people, because obviously we're playing Gears 5 now. If you didn't play it, shame on you. It's in Game Pass. It's one of the best in the series in my opinion, and listen, we're all going to get excited to play Gear 6, but do we need a Gear 6 right now? The answer is I don't think so. And I don't necessarily think we need a Gear 6 in 2 years. What we do need is to have Joanna Dark come back to the Xbox brand. This is a rare IP that Microsoft owns. And if they did it right, if the Coalition uses their ridiculous talent to make a spy thriller, a third-person spy thriller, it would be incredible. Stagrilla, I want to get your opinion on this. I don't necessarily know what your affiliation is with Perfect Dark, but would you like to see the Coalition possibly take on something to challenge their developers other than another Gears?
So yeah, I've tried to play Perfect Dark. I'm not super into those kind of games like Do X and Hitman, and I'm not really into sneaking around. I like to just go guns blazing.
But you're guns blazing kind of a dude.
Yeah, I'll do them like A Plague's Tale was a great introductory game for people who don't like stealth as much. It wasn't super. Anyways, I do think Coalition needs to work on other games. I love Gears of War. I'm a huge Halo. I know they didn't work on Halo, but I love that narrative. I love Gears of War, but I'm also one of those people that I don't want the same IP every year, 2-3 years. I want developers to push themselves. I want new IPs. I want new experiences. I want new worlds. I'm not a huge fan of remasters, remakes, and continually just pouring out the same shit over and over again. I want creative visions. I want some imagination. I want you to think. I want you to take a risk. I don't want you to just take the safe route and pump out the shit that's going to make money year after year after year and take advantage of consumers' nostalgia and comfort zones. And not only the consumers' comfort zones, but the devs and the publishers. It's like big time studios are so adamant about making money, and they got to make their boards and their shareholders happy, which I get it. That's business.
Right.
But it's the same thing in the movie industry. Stop remaking, stuff from my childhood and ruining it for me. Just not saying that gamers or game companies are ruining games for me, but it's just I'm tired of the double and the triple dips on remasters and just continually pumping out, a sequel for a previous IP. Granted, they sell, you know what I mean? And if you're continuing the story and diving deeper into the lore of those worlds, I'm all about it, but you don't need to do it every year. And then granted, these games take, 2 to 5 years to create a really high-end AAA game. So we're not getting them that fast, but I want them to challenge themselves and challenge what we expect from games.
I mean, that's a great point. I would agree with you. I know that there's some back and forth going on in the chat about how that this particular rumor is obviously a farce. And again, I said it in the beginning, take it with a grain of salt. There are some people that are quoting Rod Ferguson saying that yes, we are a Gears of War studio, and here's the thing, be better. And I'd say do more, because obviously Gears Tactics is probably one of those games that we know it's coming out for the PC in April, and I have a really strong suspicion that Gears Tactics is going to be a launch title for the Series X, along with the new Forza and the new Halo, and launching with that triple threat. Those pillars that hold up the Xbox brand, I think is fantastic. But the coalition as a developer, I understand people just want Gears, folks, but I would like a new IP from them, and I think that their studio is big enough to allocate a certain team to continue to work on Gears 6, but at the same time give the fan base something new. And now again, some people may agree and disagree, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, I grew up with Perfect Dark. I played Perfect Dark on the N64, loved it there. The 360 version, the soft reboot that it wasn't that good of a game. But if given the proper talent, if given the proper time, that could come back as a third-person action stealth game, which is, by the way, something we don't have and we didn't have in this entire generation, thanks to no Splinter Cell and no Metal Gear. So to have that come back would be a big deal. Zemi, I want to get your opinion, but before I do, I have to thank a couple of people, and I don't want to miss anybody because a couple of super chats just popped in. First of all, I have to thank Spider-Man says he drops a $5 super chat, and thank you so much for your generosity. He says, with the rumor that the PlayStation 5 is 50% faster than the XSX, do you really think it's that big of a deal with the X loading times in 10 seconds and the PS loading in 5? Well, first of all, here's the thing. That's a false rumor. That is someone that just wants to keep the PlayStation in the news. From what we've known, from what we've heard from big sources within the industry, the PlayStation 5 is going to be the weaker console. Now, how much weaker, I can't say. I don't have the consoles in front of me. Xbox will retain the power crown. Anyone that says otherwise is just fishing at this point. I'm going based on hearing from Digital Foundry and other sources that I talk to behind the scenes that I will not mention. The Xbox Series X is going to be the premium box, and it's going to be the more powerful box. But continuing with the super chats, I believe Elemental PO drops an additional $2 super chat. He says, what's wrong with reimagining Bloodwake? Bloodwake is and was amazing, dude. That could be done by a small team. 10, 15 people and done right. Bloodwake is a game that no one really knows about and was absolutely fantastic. It was basically Twisted Metal on the water, which is great. And Infinite AA drops a $5 super chat. He says, imagine if they bought People Can Fly and that studio made a Gears spinoff. You see, and that's a great point, because both Zemi and I are in agreement that is going to be the studio in Poland that they buy. But Zemi, I want to get your opinion on this. Obviously, again, this is a part of the leak that's a little safe. With of course saying that Halo Infinite, right? Halo Infinite, we knew already. Gears, the Forza Motorsport 8 is also a safe bet because they didn't release one in 2019, so they're scheduled based on past performance to release one. And of course, the Perfect Dark one, I'm very excited because I'm a fan of Joanna Dark. I'm a fan of the universe. I think that it's gone dormant way too long, and that the stealth genre is not well represented. And this could be an opportunity to bring in bring that genre to this new generation. What are your thoughts on what they're saying about these three particular titles?
Yeah, I mean, so Halo, not a shocker. Forza, really not that big of a shocker, and even Motorsports 8. Like I very much for a long time thought it was going to be Motorsports 8, not Horizon 5, just because Playground Games usually does the Horizon series. Turn 10 usually does the Motorsport series.
Yes,
and we know that Playground is currently working on other things. Not saying that they can't work on two games at the same time, but following like a time frame, it makes the most sense for it to be Motorsports. So like the only real shocker here is the Perfect Dark thing, which we actually talked about a few podcasts ago, and I was really, really excited about it. We started just speculation, heaven, like maybe it's gonna be like Splinter Cell or like 007, all these different things. And it has me really excited because that is one thing that Xbox is missing, and I think that's a big reason why they're getting all of these new studios is to pump out games, but also to ensure variety in their first party lineup. And I think Perfect Dark is a solid choice to ensure that variety, is there. I mean, we have shooters, we have, platformers, we have RPGs, but we don't really have that like that Splinter Cell, stealthy spy kind of, game. And so, that has me very, very excited. And the fact that the Coalition is also working on it really, really gets me excited as well, because they do know how to craft a good game.
Right.
And you guys were also talking about, how you guys are talking about like it's not ready for you're not ready for another Gears. I would agree with that. I do not think we probably need another Gears until at least like maybe 2021 2022. I think Gears of War 5 has tons of content. They're updating it all the time, adding new events and game modes and all that different stuff. And looking at Gears of War 4 I think was active for like 3 years, right? And I appreciate that. Like, I don't want Gears of War to turn into the next Call of Duty or the next FIFA. I don't want yearly releases because that just diminishes the franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah, yes, I agree.
And I wouldn't be upset to see the Coalition come out with their own new brand new IP as well, and put Gears of War a little bit on the back burner, or let another studio work on it in collaboration with the Coalition either. But no, I don't think Halo's that surprising. Forza's not that surprising, but the Perfect Dark is really surprising, and I hope that that part of the leak at least is true, because I would love to play that game.
Well, you know what? There's a back half of this particular topic that I want to touch on before we move on. That's very interested, and it's loaded. According to the leak, they say the launch window where and when these games are going to be arriving are from November to April 2021. Okay, that's that they're considering the launch window. The first one on there is going to excite everybody, and that's Fable by Playground Games. That still hasn't been officially announced, but we believe is coming either at the reveal event in April or May, or definitely at E3 2020. And of course, there's something called House of Thieves by Compulsion. It's a new IP inspired by both Uncharted and BioShock, which is, we're going to be talking about Compulsion later on in today's show. At least hopefully we can get to it. And the last one is, and Zemi, you're going to really like this. Obsidian Entertainment's next AAA open world RPG is a mix between Skyrim and the Outer Worlds with some new innovations. And it has been, and I think this is pretty much confirmed, has been in development since 2016. So this game is primed to possibly come out in this particular launch window. Staggerilla, I want to get to you on this particular one. And because this is such a loaded topic, I had to split it up into two talking points. Obviously, Fable is the mecca, if you will, the gem in the crown that will lead all IPs, because it's something many people in the community have been asking for. Obviously Obsidian's new AAA game, Phil has said that he's seen it and it blew his mind. And of course Compulsion Games, which I think is one of the underdogs that no one is giving credit or talking about that are a part of the Xbox Game Studios. What are your thoughts on these three particular games making the rounds in that launch window?
Are we talking Fable?
Well, I mean, you can go crazy.
Halo.
You can talk Fable, you can talk Compulsion's new AAA game. Apparently, it's called House of Thieves, or of course the Obsidian game, which is a mix between Skyrim and the Outer Worlds.
Wow, I really feel like you hit 3 to 6 gaming genres that I have absolutely zero interest in.
No, that's okay.
No. I'm just going with it here. I get Fable's huge. I'm tired of hearing about it. It's an unpopular opinion. I've tried every single Fable game to get into it, and I'm just like, not my thing. The BioShock mixed with, what game did you say? Uncharted. I haven't played my Uncharted's yet. I have a harder time getting over to my PS4 than I would like to admit most days, but I have them. I plan on playing them. I mean, it's similar to Tomb Raider games, so I will probably enjoy them. I never got into BioShock either. I'm not a huge fan of like jump scares and stuff, and I know BioShock's not laden with them, but it is a more darker, creepier style game. I think it's great for gamers. I think all of this is great in the sense of, like, one, you're going to get some new IPs. Two, everybody wants Fable. I mean, right. Not everybody, obviously, because I don't care. It's just not my thing. I'm not into, like, I don't do Skyrim. I don't do a lot of those heavy RPG games. Like, I haven't been able to get into Witcher 3, and I know it's a great game and it's very popular. I've never been super into RPGs either. Like, Mass Effect was the only RPG I was ever able to get into. I've heard The Outer Worlds is great. I'm excited.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
I played it a little bit. I plan on getting back to it. It's just I haven't, because backlog life. But
it's real. It is real,
dude. It's so real. But I love the fact that I alluded to earlier. I didn't allude to. I said it. That I'm tired of just the same rollouts over and over again and just rehashing nostalgia and giving gamers, almost it's Borderlands does it too. Like, granted, those are great games, but it's the same fucking game every goddamn time.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Oh yeah. I love Game Pass. Sorry, I just saw comments, and I love the fact that we get more games coming into that service day one, so we can try different things. I mean, the biggest part of I'm tangenting here, but being able to play games that you normally wouldn't and just try them out without having to drop $60 is amazing. I just wanted to say that,
gold.
Yeah. And I have tried different games that I normally wouldn't play and been like, oh, wow. And as I've gotten older, I've also realized, hey, I actually kind of like this genre of game that I didn't like in my early 20s. I'm 42 now, and what I want from a game is different. So maybe I will like this new BioShock Uncharted thing. I really love Tomb Raider and the exploration and the jumping around. That's why I loved the new Star Wars game, because to me it just filled that like Tomb Raider exploration and climbing around and looking for things and stuff like that. I'm excited for new IPs. I'm excited for gamers that are going to get the games they love too. I don't feel like I need to gatekeep what you enjoy.
I mean, listen, I agree. I agree with you. I mean, listen, again, I say this without trying to be, to be repetitive. Not every game or every genre is for every gamer. And
that's why there's so many different ones.
Exactly. So some things you're going to gravitate to and you're going to enjoy playing, and others you're going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm glad it's there, but it's just not for me. Now, real quick, I have to just do a quick shout out to a few people. First of all, Some Guy and, of course, Dustin Lambert. I want to thank you guys because, first of all, your chat participation is amazing. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you also for tugging on the nostalgia heartstrings because some guy says that Platonic, or at least Microsoft, should get Platonic to do remakes of Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. I say, oh, yes. I know Dustin Lambert had said earlier that he would love to see a new Assault. I second that notion with a heavy, holy shit, that needs to happen. And the Analog Circle podcast drops a $5 super chat, and he says, thank you for the great content, Boom, and panel. Do you think the next generation will be Ninja Theory's breakout generation? And the answer is a big fat, you damn right it is going to be. We're going to talk about them after this particular topic, because my God, what a pickup for them. And JD Gamer, first of all, JD, thank you for being here, dude. Really appreciate you hanging out, but also your generosity. He drops a $5 super chat and he says, exclusive second and third party content is in the DNA of Xbox, and that is very true. If Microsoft pays to have the content built, then they should enjoy what we get to have it. I know I will. Yeah, and again, that goes back to if they're spending Microsoft dollars to help publish a game that would not have been published, then they absolutely have to, expect the gains, and no one should have a problem with that, because that is very similar to like what happened with Capcom and Sony. They published Street Fighter V and they made it exclusive to their box because that game wasn't going to be made. And back in 2016, they were on the ropes, Capcom, and they were on the cusp of bankruptcy. A lot of people don't know that. And JD Gamer drops, an additional $10 super chat, and he says, "What if Ninja Theory teaches XGS their development tricks, i.e. how they use 40 people to get a AAA game? What do you think we get from 343's 500 plus developers, the Coalition's 250 plus developers, and Rare's 200, as well as Obsidian's 200? You know what, dude? The one thing that is very apparent about this Microsoft. Now, obviously, I'm being facetious, where it's not like a different company. You understand what I'm saying is that the Microsoft that we currently have, that has been building on what we're going to get at the end of the year, is a more cohesive and understanding Microsoft. And they pulled a couple of pages out of Sony's book. Like, Sony's first party developers are known for working together. When something is not going right, one company will reach out to another one and say, we need help. Can you? And they'll send someone over and they'll figure it out. And that's the one hand washing the other scenario. Microsoft has adapted this behavior. And as they started getting the more first party studios, which are now a total of 15, we're seeing a different mindset. We're seeing a different ideology with the way Microsoft is making games, and that is great for gamers, especially Microsoft gamers. But I have to go to Zemi next, because Zemi, I don't think that there's one game on this second half that you are not tickled pink to talk about. So break down what these three games coming in the first part. I suppose it's the launch window. Are you excited for all three of these titles?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Are you kidding me? Yes. Fable. Yes. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about Fable, because we'll talk about that whenever we know more information. But I'm super, super excited about Fable. Cannot wait to play that game. House of Thieves. Like, I'm really, really excited, because I'm a huge fan of the Uncharted series. I absolutely love it. I actually put it above Tomb Raider. I love the Uncharted series so much. I can't wait to get a PS5 so I can play my invisible backlog on the PlayStation and finally be able to play Uncharted 4, because I've been waiting forever to do that. So it's a mix between Uncharted and BioShock. I did not play the first 2 BioShocks because, as everyone knows, I'm a coward. But I did play the third BioShock that looked nicer and happy. And I thoroughly enjoyed that game. It did scare me a lot because there's still jump scares whenever you'd walk through a door. I didn't like that, but the game was so good I had to keep playing. I forced myself to play through it. But another thing also with this game, and I'm actually going to kind of borrow from another topic if you don't care. No. Compulsion recently, got one of the developers that worked on the Thief game to Compulsion.
2 of them, actually.
And I absolutely... 2 of them?
Yeah, 2 of them.
Okay. I absolutely love the Thief game. Like, I only played half of it because once I got to the scary asylum where there was like things moving on their own, I jumped out. But I thoroughly enjoyed that game as well. And that was probably one of my favorite games I believe it was I'm wanting to think it came out in the 360, but it might have came out in the
It was early Xbox One. I think it was
early Xbox One.
It might have been early 2014, the reboot of Thief. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I never even beat it, but I thoroughly enjoyed that game. It was fantastic. So like the whole House of Thieves, like it has me attached. It has me hooked. I don't know if I would even buy it because it might just be too scary for me. But if I can, I will, and I will absolutely enjoy that game.
Well, it's going to be in Game Pass, so no worry there.
Well, that's true. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. See, I never get used to that idea of me not actually having to pay for it because I already paid for it, right?
Right.
It still shocks me to this day. I don't know. And then like Obsidian, like I think it was last podcast on Tuesday, we were talking about Bethesda, Xbox, the potential of Xbox buying ZeniMax, which in turn they would get Bethesda, of course, because it's their parent company. And I was talking about how I don't believe that they would really even need to get it. Obviously, they need to stop Sony from getting it, but they don't really need it because they have Obsidian, and Obsidian is a fantastic developer, especially whenever it comes to RPGs. And I mean, just I love the Outer Worlds, like the space theme and everything like that, but I also love Skyrim on Bethesda's side, and seeing that it's going to be a mix between both of those games, it's going to be a huge RPG, has me absolutely excited. I'm a huge fan of the Outer Worlds. I'm just a huge fan of all like RPGs, generally speaking, but I cannot wait to see what they push out because, what was that? There was the interview between Phil Spencer and Major Nelson, and Major Nelson had no idea. He was like, "Oh, you're talking about Grounded," and Phil's like, "No, the other one." And yes. The game sounds like it is absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. So I'm super excited, and I really hope this leak is true. So we see, 2 RPGs and a Uncharted / BioShock kind of like game come out very early in the generation. I need more RPGs.
No, I agree. The more RPGs, and especially Obsidian developed and cultivated RPGs. A perfect example. And I just want to throw this out there. If you haven't had a chance to play Obsidian's masterpiece, known as The Outer Worlds, get a chance. Let that be the next game you play. I'm not going to say shame on you because obviously the backlog life, like Stagorilla was saying, is legit. It is absolutely 100% legit. But that is a game that is so well crafted. It is so personal while you're playing because of the choices that you make. I mean, there were choices that came up during the game that I actually had to put the controller down and say, "Man, do I make this call? Did I save it somewhere else where if I F up, then I could turn around and reload the save?" Yeah, it was really deep like that. The character, the crew interaction, you actually brought me, and it harkened back for me, at least anyway, to Mass Effect, especially Mass Effect 2, one of my all-time favorite Xbox 360 games, where you had these choices where you could go and do the extra missions for said character in your party, and they told such an incredible story outside of the story, the main focus. It is something that really needs to be played. And again, if you love Obsidian's older RPGs, of course, like Knights of the Old Republic 2, which is really taking it back, or more recently, Fallout New Vegas, the Fallout New Vegas, the best one in the series, in my opinion. I think you're going to love this, and I think that we're going to really be in for something special with this next RPG that they're going to be coming out. But on the last part of this particular leak, which was very sizable, and I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about it, and I knew we were going to be an hour's worth at least. It says this. That's it for first party. Now for the third party launch. And apparently Assassin's Creed Ragnarok is February 14th. Now, this is where I think he's wrong. I think Ragnarok, which is apparently not even the name of it anymore, is going to be launching in the early fall. I think maybe October. I'm thinking like maybe October 24th through the 28th. At least that's what I'm banking on. Then they say Rocksteady new game, which we don't know what it is, for November 28th. And I know, Zemi, you're gonna smile. Mafia 4 on March 3rd. And last but not least, and this is the big one, apparently they have a marketing deal with GTA 6, and that's supposed to be releasing on April of 2021. And of course, those are all big games. The GTA 6 marketing deal, my God, that must have cost them a pretty penny, because you would think that would immediately go to Sony, because obviously when you think Sony, you think Grand Theft Auto. At least most people do. Stagrilla, what are your thoughts on this last part of the leak? Do you want to see Microsoft get that marketing deal for Grand Theft Auto 6?
Sure, why not? I mean, it's money, right? It's exposure. I mean, so Grand Theft Auto 5 was the first one that I ever got into, and I love that game. Like, I loved the story, I loved the world. I didn't do the multiplayer. I'm not a huge multiplayer guy anyways. I'm more into like co-op and stories.
I agree, me too.
But I'd rather play with than against. That's kind of been my thing. I used to play a lot of competitive multiplayer, but as I've gotten older, I've just moved away from it. But marketing deals are always good. Now, if that means exclusive, no. Like content wise, we discussed that earlier. I don't agree with all that, but I think it would be great for the brand to have that huge marketing avenue. I mean, it's Grand Theft Auto is just a beast. You know what I mean? Look how much money 5 has made across 2 generations. You know what I mean? So with the 360 and the
millions with the
PS3, the Xbox, those two, the last 2 generations that we're currently still in. It's a beast. It would I don't know if it would be huge, but it would be pretty big. You know what I mean? If they could get that. So yeah, I mean, why not go for it? I mean, as a company that has a bottom line and shareholders, you got to go out there and try and do what's not only best for your roadmap and your consumers, but the people who are going to continue to invest in your company to potentially make a profit off of their investment. So, I mean, you've got to go find those things that are going to drive profits to your platform. So, yeah, go after it, right?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that if it turns out that in fact the Microsoft retains the power crown, and you can turn around and in an advertisement, for the game, which would be big, would be huge. It would sell consoles because you'd be able to attach the hashtag or the line plays best on Series X.
No, that doesn't even matter if people aren't buying it, though. I mean,
no, I mean, well, that's true. Again, this is just
well, it puts their name out there more.
No, I agree.
It's the Xbox brand in people's minds more, than what happened here this generation, at least.
Well, and a lot of what happened here this generation was those pre-launch announcements. That hurt Microsoft the most. It's not that they didn't have games. It's not that the console was going to be underpowered. It was all that bullshit that it freaked me out too. All that stuff that they ended up not doing scared a lot of people away.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, messaging is key, and I think we're going to see a different thinking Microsoft, especially in one of their Achilles heels. Which was messaging. Messaging and marketing has been something that they needed to step up. We've seen some signs that they're changing the way that they do things, and I'm very excited for the future. But Zemi, to close out this particular topic, I know one particular game. Sure, GTA 6 is going to be huge, but I know that you're smiling when you say Mafia 4 because you enjoyed Mafia 3. Now, again, Mafia 3, if you have not played that game,
that's sacrilege. That is not true.
I'm going to say shame
that
on
is
you.
That is not true. I did not enjoy Mafia 3. Don't slander my name like that.
Oh my goodness! I loved Mafia 3. I loved Mafia 3.
I loved the first two.
Two was good. 2 was very good. I really, really enjoyed 3. One of the key factors for 3 was the soundtrack. I'm even though I listen to new age music now. I love 50s and 60s and stuff, and 70s, and it was amazing, the soundtrack that they had. But are you for Mafia 4? Obviously, you don't want them to continue the story of 3. You'd like to see them continue the story from 2. But with these particular games being mentioned as potential marketing, do you think it's going to be big for the brand?
I don't think Mafia is going to have that big of an impact, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think GTA is is a lot bigger of a franchise that a lot more people get excited about. I really get excited about Mafia 4 just because I'm a nerd, and I just love that type of stuff. But from like a marketing standpoint, I think Gears of War and Assassin's Creed, the new Assassin's Creed, are probably the 2 biggest, possibly Rocksteady's game, depending on what that is. But
hypothetically GTA a Harry Potter game.
Well, I really want it to be. I mean, now there's a lot of evidence that supports Avalanche too, but I really, really, really hope it's Rocksteady that's making that Harry Potter game. But I think there's so many rumors. I think like there was some rumors talking about how it could be a Superman game, and then there's also people talking about how it could be a Justice League game. Regardless of whatever it is, whatever they're making would probably be a really, really big win for Xbox getting the marketing rights for. But I think GTA is really the biggest title here because I mean it's definitely what's going to probably sell the most, right? It's the advertisement that's going to catch the most people's attention, in my opinion. And I mean, like what Staggerilla was saying, like a big issue for Xbox this generation was the major PR disaster at the very beginning of the generation. Yep. Mm-hmm. But advertising works. That's why all of these companies, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you're trying to sell, all these companies use advertisements, and advertising works. And the more Xbox can get their name out there, the more people are going to be thinking about it the way that they quite possibly maybe didn't think about it this generation. That could bring back other people that Xbox lost this generation to the PlayStation because they see all of these new advances that Xbox is making. And then on top of that, they at the end of what could possibly be their favorite game, Grand Theft Auto, they're now being informed that it plays the best on an Xbox console, right? So I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it makes a whole lot of sense, and it's a huge win if this leak is true, and if Xbox did get the marketing deal with GTA. I think that's probably the biggest game. Assassin's Creed is also really, really big as well, but GTA is the biggest one. I just hope, once again, I'm not big onto exclusive content for games and stuff like that. So I hope that doesn't actually come into play. But yeah, I think it would be huge if they got GTA.
No, I agree. Well, listen, first of all, we're an hour and 12 minutes into the show, which is great. And this topic, I hope everyone enjoyed it. I have to, first of all, thank Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. You know him as Enrique, the voice of that amazing show. He drops a $2 super chat and yells woo, and I appreciate you being here, dude. Michael Alexandria with the $2 super chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the generosity. Really appreciate that. But I want to move on to the next particular topic. Now, Zemi and I have been talking. We were talking before Staggerilla got on, and what we were talking about was this Microsoft swagger that they have had. And they're doing things. They seem to be walking to the beat of their own drum. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, of course, you have to go all the way back to December 12th when they announced the Series X as well as Hellblade 2, right? And they stole market share. Literally, no one has talked about PlayStation in an abundance since that. And then when Sony was going to have their their reveal, which a lot of people thought was going to be the PlayStation 5, or at least what it looks like, where we got a logo.
That logo.
Yeah, it was great logo. Amazing work done. Phil Spencer did something unlike Phil Spencer, and he didn't make a statement about it. He simply just changed his Twitter picture to the chip that powers the Xbox Series X. Now, in saying it out loud, it may not seem like a big deal, but he did that right before Sony was supposed to do their presentation. Now, we have seen in the past Sony continuously do this to Microsoft. And it appears, like I've said on many other shows, Microsoft has taken some pages right out of their book, and it seems to be working. Now, yesterday, we had heard rumors that Sony was officially going to announce the actual release event date, which is February 5th. And something happened the day before, obviously, was this got leaked right on the screen. An actual prototype of the Xbox Series X. And that's now, again, I don't know who did this. If the person did it, they probably lost their job, unless, of course, this was some sort of a controlled leak, which some people are saying. And that was right before the announcement. So basically because people were anticipating this announcement from Sony, and that had been out a few days before, and they dropped this. Now, obviously, this is just a picture, right? There's no real substance to but what you're seeing. But then something happened yesterday, right at the time that Sony, I believe it was Sony UK or Sony Europe, was going to make this announcement. Now, we obviously know Jim Ryan used to run the European division of Sony. Now he's the head of Sony. And there was a little announcement from a team that has been making some waves. Their name is Ninja Theory, and they dropped this Project Mara. And it took off like a rocket. Social media didn't give a flying F what was going on with Sony. They wanted to know more, and we got more. Not only did we get an E3 type presentation video explaining it, we got something from Xbox Wire that I'm going to read the exact press release just in case you missed it. Okay, so this is directly from Ninja Theory. It says, today we are announcing Project Mara, our new in-development experimental title that explores new ways of storytelling, and we're excited to share the first details with you. Project Mara will be a real-world and grounded representation of mental terror, based on real lived experience accounts and in-depth research. Our aim is to recreate the horrors of the mind as accurately and realistically as possible. Project Mara will be an experimental title and a showcase to what could become a new storytelling medium. Since joining Xbox Game Studios in 2018, we've been hard at work on our upcoming multiplayer brawler, Bleeding Edge, our new recently announced innovative R&D project, the Insight Project, and of course, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. These projects will continue to drive our development goals for the future and for the next few years, and will help shape Ninja Theory's vision of our future. Now, let me just say this, okay? I've said this publicly on social media. I've said it on Twitter. I've said it on different shows. I'll say it on today's show. There's a running narrative that's currently floating around social media, and I'm not going to call it anybody individual, but I'm going to say this. If you are one of these boobs, and I mean boobs, that are touting Ninja Theory as a AA studio, go in the corner, put the dunce cap on, turn around, and don't speak to anybody in the classroom until the end of the day, because no one wants to hear from you. That is not only ignorant, it is unsubstantiated, and it's preposterous at best. Now, obviously, the video that I'm talking about, I will have linked in the show notes once this show goes up. I also am going to be bringing up a couple of pictures that have come up. This one, of course, is the one that everyone is talking about, and it looks fantastic. Now, this is a bit of a blurry picture. It's not the greatest. I'm working on getting a better still shot of it. I think someone sent it to me, so I have to swap this out. But Stagrilla, I want to go. I want to go to you first on this because obviously you are a special guest, and we were talking. Obviously, well, obviously, if you're a guest, you are special. So thank you for being here. But
anybody who knows me knows I'm special.
Well, there's something special about you when it comes to technology, but we won't talk about that because that's a running joke. But
yeah.
Obviously, Ninja Theory is a developer that has the chops, that has proven time and time again that they are the real deal, and no one saw this coming. The fact that the Xbox brand is going to have a PT-like type of experience, which some people are comparing this to, has me very excited because I'm a huge horror fan. But it is amazing that this developer, as small as they are, continually impress with the amount of people per team that works on these games. And they prove time and time again, they are loaded with talent. What are your thoughts on this recently announced game from Ninja Theory?
So from what I've seen, which honestly is pretty much what we've all seen, I really like what they are doing in expanding how they're going about their storytelling and the areas of the mind and like schizophrenia-esque type things, and just coming at it from a different point of view on how they're going to go about experiencing things that we all deal with. Maybe not all of us, but just how your mind plays tricks on you personally or puts you in depression or all those different things. I love that because it's giving light to, in my opinion, a social problem that is very much overlooked. Not necessarily overlooked, but can be looked down upon as a weakness in you. If you're sad, you're depressed, you deal with crazy shit in your head, and I feel the more exposure to those things, granted it's a horror game and I am not the biggest fan of that genre at all. There's video of me playing Resident Evil 7 and like damn near pissing myself, and like Home Sweet Home was another game, really, really, really scary, but it addressed suicide, and that addresses mental issues. And I think the more it's good to address things that impact the society as a whole instead of just games that you run around and shoot people. Granted, it's going to be a horror aspect and maybe have like poltergeists or ghosts or monsters or whatever, which aren't necessarily, depending on what you believe, are real. But exploring the psyche of humans and humanity is an underexplored specter in gaming, in my opinion, and I think it's great. And those pictures I've seen look amazing. Like they posted that picture of the stairs where it was like all of them sitting on it, and then one below it where it was showing the game. And
the game, yes,
it was like, holy cow! Next gen is going to look amazing from Sony and Xbox. I mean, we can't even deny that, and I'm excited to find out where these developers go with. I mean, like, especially on the Microsoft side, because they're bringing in these studios and they're saying, see that room full of money? Have fun, and just giving them the artistic freedom to make what they want and not being chained down by having to go get investors to, like, if they were still in an independent studio, which is what indies are, this whole notion that indies are just crappy 8-bit games and stuff like that. And that are just cartoony. It needs to be thrown out the window. Independent developers make indie games, and you can still make an indie-like game and be a big studio under a big window of, say, Sony, Microsoft, EA, those kind of companies. I just really like that Microsoft has said continually, and the studios they have bought and have said, like, they're giving us artistic freedom and they're giving us money to do what we want, and they're just letting us run with it. And I think that's great for everyone. So yeah,
No,
I'm excited for these games. I mean, I might not play them, but for where it moves the narrative and where it moves other, like if they're successful, it'll give other game creators that option to move over there and say, holy shit, we can do this now.
Yes, great point. Yeah, no, absolutely. If first of all, right now, Ninja Theory seems, and I'm not taking away from any other developers. Maybe there's something that someone is developing that I have not seen. Maybe there's something that was developed that I didn't play regarding mental illness awareness. And I'm not discounting anyone's upcoming titles or titles of in the past, but we can say with full understanding that Ninja Theory is leading the charge in awareness for mental illness. We saw it in Senua's Sacrifice. We're going to see more of it, even more so with Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, and now we know that they're working on a particular project other than this one that explores mental awareness, and they're doing it in a way where it's not being shoved down your throat. You know what I'm saying? It's not in your face. They're telling a story that involves mental illness, but they're telling it in such a way that you don't think of it until you think of it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not in your ear, and being shoved in down your throat. Like, I'm not enjoying this game because they're trying to push a narrative and I'm uncomfortable. They do it in a way where it's exploratory and it's broken down in action format where you're playing a game, you're enjoying playing said game, but at the same time you might be learning something, and that is the goal of any educator. And I understand that this is not a teaching simulator, by any stretch of the truth. They are still teaching in their own way, and they do it well. Now, obviously, Zemi, I'm going to go to you next, and we know how much of a brave person you are, and you cannot wait to play this in pitch black with headphones on. But before I get your opinion on this, I have to thank JD Gamer with the additional $2 super chat. Dude, thank you for your generosity. He says this: I wonder what Microsoft has planned for February 5th. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If I were Phil Spencer, I would have a much bigger place than I have, but I'm not. And I'm fine with that. But if I were Phil Spencer, I would do one of two things. One, we know what time they're going to be doing it. I think it's going to be in the afternoon. So I'll be doing a live stream talking about that because I'm a Sony fan too. But what I would do is midday on the 5th, hours before that they were supposed to do this event, I would play a 2.5-minute gameplay trailer of Halo Infinite. That's what I would do. And or do something even bigger. Do a trailer to the officially announce something. Fable in development, and do a title screen. Show like they did with Halo back in 2018, where they just showed like the wilderness and they showed some animals and some creatures, and they panned back. You do that before Sony's event. That's basically kicking them in the balls when they're not looking. That's what I would do. I would go crazy, and it would be something epic. It would be one of the mainstay franchises that we didn't know was in development, or we've been waiting to hear something. Do Forza, do Halo, or even go crazy and officially announce Playground Games, developer of such and such, such and such. Here's a Fable. Here's a trailer. That's what I would do, and again, it would be that aggressiveness that we've seen. But Zemi, I want to get to you. What are your thoughts on not only on Ninja Theory as a developer, one of the biggest developers that are a part of Xbox Game Studios, but the fact that they're developing these games with not the biggest teams, and also tackling a subject that some people in this world do shy away from because it's a tough subject?
Well, I mean, them tackling these subjects isn't really anything new because similar subjects were tackled in Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, right? I mean, they're a developer that likes to touch on these impactful subjects that people usually don't think about. And I really, really like that in gaming, and very, very few developers do that. And generally speaking, we really only see that being done, previously a lot in indie games because they have the freedom to make whatever they want. And I think that's one of the greatest things. And Stegarilla really touched on that as well. Microsoft is giving Ninja Theory the freedom to do whatever they want. They're still, in a way, they're still an indie studio. They still want to make indie projects, and fortunately, Xbox is allowing them to do that and taking away the financial burden off of them in the sense that they don't have to worry about money. They can just worry about creating whatever, worlds they want to create. And I absolutely love it because, it's one thing hearing about depression, hearing about suicide, hearing about all these tough, very, very impactful subjects, but it's a different thing to actually have your feet planted in that character and understand what motivates them, understand, how they feel about things. And I think a lot of players are going to walk away with a better understanding of these subjects and maybe more sympathy, because it's easy seeing somebody have an issue or seeing somebody being in pain or something like that, but you don't really feel that, you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the really good reasons. I think that's one of the really exceptionally well done things that Ninja Theory is doing is that they're giving us a entertaining game but also a game that's going to make us think, after we play it about, very, very deep subjects, I guess maybe a little bit differently than what we did before we started playing that game, which I think is fantastic. I don't know if I'm ever going to play the game because it looks scary. Demon Lady, she I don't I don't know how I would deal with that, but the game looks absolutely beautiful. And if it was any other developer currently working on 4 different projects, I think I would say that they're chewing off more than they could, more than they could eat. You know what I mean? But with it being Ninja Theory, the developer who made Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice with, I believe, 12 developers, right?
I think it was 12 or 15. It was so small. The team was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, with them making that game with such a small development team, they're definitely going to be able to pull this off. And I mean, they're just such a talented small developer. They make absolutely beautiful worlds. The trailer showing off that hallway was absolutely, it was just mind blowing. Seeing what the next generation of graphics is going to look like. And even the Hellblade trailer, looking at that, it blows me away that such a small team is able to create something that, previously would have taken a team of 200 people and they maybe they might have been able to make it look that good. You know what I mean? They're an incredible studio and I cannot wait to see what else they put out. I don't know if I'm going to play it, but I can't wait. It's going to look pretty, if nothing else.
Yeah, listen, it's again, there are some people on the internet that are comparing this based on what we've seen and what we've heard to a more fleshed out PT, that kind of psychological horror. Mm-hmm. And if that in fact is the case, PT was scary. PT looked amazing. Even that little demo that it was going to be something special. It's a shame that didn't come out, but obviously we are getting something in that form factor from Ninja Theory. I want to move on to, though, the next subject, and this particular podcast, what I'm excited about is we are highlighting some of these smaller developers that get overlooked. And one of those developers is Compulsion Games. Now, obviously, they were announced as being acquired in 2018. And obviously, they released We Happy Few, and the game released to mild commercial and critical reception. I think it's sitting at maybe 60-something. I think it's 63 on Metacritic. It was an okay game. When I signed up for it, I thought it was going to be more BioShock-esque. But the game played fine. I never played through it, and I know some people that enjoyed it and are still enjoying it, which is great. But why I want to bring up Compulsion Games is because during that particular leak that we just talked about to open today's show, we mentioned their next AAA game, right? And of course, I think personally there are some developers within the Xbox game studios that are smaller and don't have the notoriety of a 343 or a Playground Games. And even a Ninja Theory, I think, is working its way up to being, the creme de la creme, if you will. But two of them come to mind, and one of which is Undead Labs, which, if we can get to that story, we'll talk about that next. And obviously Compulsion Games. Now, Compulsion Games is working on a AAA third-person game that, obviously, like we talked before, is being compared to an action game like Uncharted, which that in itself excites me. And then when you say BioShock it's going to have a story that could potentially, give you that BioShock feel, that really has me excited and perplexed at the same time. Now, this past Sunday, our good friends, the Iron Lords of YouTube fame, had on public relations and community developer Nalia Haja, and she was discussing the next game that they're working on, which in fact is being touted as a AAA experience, and it's been described as a third-person title. And this is something that, in my opinion, and I'll get the panel's opinion in a second, may or may not agree. I think that's been missing from the Microsoft first party. It's something that we saw Sony do so well with the Uncharted series. The Uncharted series, whether you like it, love it, or hate it, it's a game that spanned 4 releases on multiple PlayStations. I believe they had one called the Golden Circle on the PSP, I believe it was, and then of course you had the DLC with the 2 female characters, which, by the way, was fantastic. I mean, it was such a great addition to the already incredible Uncharted series. So to know that this company is working on something, and they use the words Uncharted and they use the words BioShock, has me basically, you had me at hello. But not only does this sound awesome, it's another new IP. Again, something that has been missing, something that the fan base has been asking for. We want new IPs. Yes, we love Forza. Yes, we love Halo. Yes, we love Gears. But we also love new IPs, especially if they're going to be in a genre that is also missing from the particular generation. And Compulsion themselves has hired some big AAA talent that could potentially propel this small studio into a household name. And the first new hire was Dominique Cote, who previously worked on worked at Eidos Montreal on games like Thief 2014 and Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. They also worked on Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, Cote is joined by at Compulsion as of this month. And they're taking on the role as senior technical artist. Now, who's joining them is also new to Compulsion is Maximum Archetto. He worked alongside Cote on Thief and Deus Ex, and previously spent time at Ubisoft. Now, Archetto specializes in quest building and narrative design, and that is a big deal because he's taking on the role of senior narrative designer. And keep in mind, the studio is comprised of only 40 developers. I mean, it's a small studio, but could you imagine if they learn some things from Ninja Theory and they take those 40 developers and they somehow crank out a AAA experience in a company, in a developer that no one is really talking about? Stagrella, I want to go to you first on this. When you heard this, obviously you kind of mentioned it earlier before. Obviously, we know you're an Uncharted fan. You're going to play it.
I haven't
And
played it, but yeah, I'm a Tomb Raider fan, and I like that
oh,
style of
okay,
game.
so you're
So
more of
yeah,
a Tomb Raider fan.
I
Okay,
do
so
own the trilogy.
okay, all right. Well, I mean, listen, Compulsion Games is not a studio that most people are talking about. And obviously, most people in the world go based on what they remember last that you did. That's just the way the world works.
True
And
story.
for some, We Happy Few just didn't do it for some people, and I get it. I get it. I'm one of those people. I got in on the ground floor. I supported the game. I pre-bought the game before I even knew what the game was going to be because I wanted to support the company.
Ditto.
And it just wasn't my type of game like I thought it was going to be. But when you hear that there's a potential for a AAA release, a new IP that harkens in both classic franchises like Uncharted and BioShock, what are your expectations?
Oh man, I honestly I try to temper my expectations when it comes to all of this because, and I mean, and that goes across like my entire life. I feel like um I've said this multiple times in my stream, on Twitter discussions, other podcasts, that like people allow themselves to put their expectations as high as, a space needle, and then when reality sets in, they are incredibly let down. But that being said, if you're going to say we're making a game that's going to be like Uncharted crossed with BioShock, and We Happy Few was flawed on release. We can all agree with that.
Yes.
But I really loved the subject matter that they were addressing. So I'm curious to see what kind of subject matter they're addressing. And I still need to get back to that game because I know some things have been fixed, but it kept glitching on me and I got mad and I stopped. Anyhow,
Okay.
I expect something really good. I expect there to be some awesome parts of it, and I expect some people to feel like, oh, they let me down. That's just that's how everything happens. What I really like though is, like you were saying, they're not a very talked about studio. They're a smaller studio. What I like the most is they're under that umbrella, and these devs that are all under this Microsoft umbrella, now the Xbox Game Studios, they are talking to each other like, hey, I saw you did that cool thing with this. Like, how do I do that? And that's good for us as gamers and consumers, because if those guys are communicating instead of being, X studio over here, Y studio over here, and having their own shareholders or their own things to worry about, they don't share information because they're competitors. Right now, all these studios that work for Microsoft, they're not necessarily competitors. They work for a parent. They have to make money for them, but they've sold. You know what I mean? They need to make money for Xbox, and Xbox is giving them that avenue to do that. So that's great. And they can just mind share everything, which is, if you've seen different games that you've liked on different platforms, and now you guys get to all work together and share your technologies and ideas, like, how cool is that? Like, how is that? I feel like that's going to give us all better worlds, better experiences, different kinds of gameplay mechanics meshing together. I think it's a great thing. I think Compulsion having, maybe they're only 40 people, but that they have access to 200, 400 other people that work on games that are, they might not be in the same building, or on the same campuses or even in the same country, but they can quickly email or do a video chat or say, hey, this is what we're working on. We're having a hard time with this. We saw you did something that did this thing here. How can we incorporate that into what we're doing? And that's just going to make better games and better experiences for all of us.
No, that's a great point. Well, listen, it goes to be as simple as the left hand talking to the right hand, so both hands know what they're doing. And and again, it does look and appear that this is a new way of thinking at Microsoft. I think, like you were saying, and I agree with you 1,000%. Better communication and understanding between developers at Microsoft will bring better experiences for the fan base, and that is important. It's going to make us want to play their games. It's going to make us want the people to invest in their platform by buying their consoles. And it will make us want to invest into Game Pass because obviously it's a first party, so everything day and date goes in there, and that is saving. Again, I cannot speak on how much money I have personally saved in 2019 and already
Oh.
saving in 2020 based on Game Pass.
That anti-consumer product.
Yeah, the that's right. I'm glad you brought that up because I want to make sure that we say that at least once in the show. The anti-consumer product known as Xbox Game Pass that somehow devalues Microsoft as a company every time someone signs up. They lose $1. I don't know how it works, but this is what the internet is saying. But yeah, do great points. Zemi, I want to go to you next on this because obviously you are a fan of Uncharted. And I know that you talked about how you were a fan of BioShock, but you didn't like the earlier ones because it was too scary. And I get it. But if they could do the storytelling of what we loved about BioShock and give us an action adventure in a third-person, open semi-world kind of a adventure like Uncharted, this could be something special. And again, they're touting it as a AAA experience. This is not something that I coined. It's something that they coined. So they have confidence that it's going to be good. Are you excited to see what Compulsion does? And are people overlooking this studio?
You know, I think a lot of people are overlooking the studio just for the simple fact that, you know, We Happy Few. I mean, I never played the game. I've thought about it. I've downloaded it. I just haven't played it yet. But that game was like very, very buggy and glitchy whenever it first came out. And, you know, like you guys, you know, we're talking about, you get judged on what you last did, not what you have done before. And, you know, maybe that's fair, maybe that's not fair, but either way, it's the unfortunate fact of, in the reality of the situation that they're in. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of people are kind of, you know, setting them on the back burner, if you would. But I am a huge Uncharted fan. I'm a huge, like, PlayStation exclusive fan. I'm also a huge Xbox exclusive fan. But there's something that PlayStation does with their exclusives that just lure me in. The strong storytelling, the strong characters,
the adult themes.
The adult themes. I love that. And I've been saying for a very, very long time that I wish Xbox would dive into that. And I kind of think that, you know, they will eventually. And I hope that this is kind of what Compulsion is working on, with it being a mix of Uncharted and BioShock. I hope they take some of the themes of BioShock and some of the, you know, maybe some of the gameplay elements, but very much stick kind of close to the Uncharted with, you know, like the strong storytelling, the third person, like action adventure, kind of somewhat linear game, because I love those PlayStation exclusives and I really, really want some of those experiences on the Xbox platform. And that's probably one of my biggest hopes of this game. But ultimately I think it's just going to take time for people to get excited about, you know, Compulsion. I think, you know, once they announce their game that they're working on, show a few trailers, I think we're going to see a lot more people jump on the bandwagon of hype and get excited for whatever they're working on, so long as it does look good.
I mean, listen, it's going to be interesting. I love that they're talking about it. You got to remember, again, the ideology that Microsoft is going forward with now is a much different Microsoft, right? Mid-generation, this particular Xbox One generation, we wouldn't have never known about this game, right? They would be afraid to let people get out there and talk about it. Sure, they wouldn't see a trailer, but they're still talking about what they're working on. And we don't know how far it's out. For all we know, it could be coming out at a launch game. We could see it in 3 years. We don't know. But I just like what we're seeing. I like what they're doing. And you know what? Obviously, you know, what I'm very proud about this particular show, this particular one that we're on today, is we're going to be talking about another company right now that is, again, for better or for worse, whether you like it or hate it, Undead Labs is another company that was purchased in late 2018, right along with Compulsion, and it is another developer within the Xbox Game Studios, I guess stable, if you will, that no one is talking about. Now, again, a smaller company that currently, as of today's show, which I checked before we went live, has 90 employees. Only 90 employees for Undead Labs. And it's still considered, you know, in today's day and age, a smaller developer compared to others within the community. Now, in 2018, Undead Labs released a zombie game that some people really loved. I happen to put 60 plus hours into it. State of Decay 2, in my opinion, is a masterpiece that people overlook because it's a small AA studio that a lot of people were touting as it being released as a AAA game. That never was going to be a AAA game. It was always going to be a AA game, a step up from the arcade game that came before it in State of Decay. And obviously they involved multiplayer in this one. But being a company that was untethered to Microsoft, that did not have the dollars to push the boundaries of their development, ideas, and being only of 90 people. Now, they're 90 people now. I don't know how big they were at the time. There could have been 50 people working on State of Decay 2. Needless to say, the game came out. Sure, it had some issues, but I will tell you this is the little train that could. They continually, right now, even as of today, are supporting that game, and they're making it better with different modes. And it is, again, maybe it's not, maybe the permadeath survival horror isn't your genre. Maybe going, having to scrounge around for food and other items isn't your bag. And that's fine. Again, not every game is for every gamer. But again, what's exciting about this, like Compulsion Games, is Undead Labs is working on their next AAA game. And that game has been confirmed as being State of Decay 3. No surprise there. And this confirmation comes to us from Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios. And this is what he had to say on the matter. In the case of Undead Labs, we absolutely want them to go and make State of Decay 3. That is a clear goal. That studio will have some other incubation work, but they'll also work on some other things. But State of Decay is the main game and the main team. When we first started working on State of Decay, we had a much bigger game, a much more persistent online game. And I know that Undead Labs will get there eventually. But by bringing them into the Microsoft family, I think we're able to accelerate that and get us there sooner, which is great. Now, obviously, hearing that State of Decay 3 will be bigger and bolder in every way should excite fans of the series, but also bring new fans in when this game obviously releases. And again, with the proper time and funding, the next installment, by all accounts, should offer a strong single-player experience, which I've been asking for, and I think a lot of fans have, as well as a more realized multiplayer that, again, the fan base wants. No tethering. You can run around the map, but we'll take 4 of your buddies, and you guys can go in different directions. That's what we want. I think that's what they're going to be able to deliver. Stagrilla, would you agree that Undead Labs, even though you don't really like scary type games, is another one of those developers that people are just not talking about? And now that they have the funding and the backing of their parent company in Microsoft, are potentially going to deliver a State of Decay 3 unlike anything that we could have expected.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say people aren't talking about them, because I see plenty of people talking shit on those two games. So I mean, like, on how they look and how they've been buggy.
Well, I don't necessarily mean talking about them. I mean, I mean, shunning them. Yeah, sure. They're boatloads of people out there. I actually meant be like people talking about the developer in a proper manner, basically.
Okay, that's fair. I like I said about previous developers that are now underneath the umbrella, that, more resources, more money and time is gonna give you and them more chance to not you, but give them a chance to polish their game more, make a better experience, make it deeper, better looking, have different core mechanics, make it work better for you and your friends. Like those kind of games aren't my thing. I'm not that I'm not into scary games. I'm super not into games where I have to scavenge resources. Like, I just do not have the time for that bullshit. I don't want to build a house. Like, I don't want to wash my own laundry in a game. Like, I got a real life. I got enough stuff to do in real life that I don't need to be doing that in a game. Like, people like that stuff. And I think that's great. It goes back to the whole, like, I think it's great that we all have so many different styles of game. It's not like back, in the 80s where there was a ton of games, but there was a lot of similar stuff. And there's so many different ways for areas for devs to go into creatively now, which is great. So I might not like this survival style of game. You might not like shooters, you might not like platformers, whatever, but there's something out there for you. And I think that's great that all these devs are getting those chances to do that. And I think that State of Decay 3 will probably run great, look amazing, and shut up some doubters, because it's got the full backing now and of Microsoft. And it's not just I wouldn't say it was an afterthought, but just resources are huge in everything, not just gaming. Like, the more resources you have, and if you apply those correctly, the better product or experience you can roll out to whatever your consumer base is. So I think we will see more people talk about it as we get more information of not just that game, but whatever games are being worked on, and we get, maybe a trailer, or is this CGI, or is this actual gameplay footage, those kind of conversations. So I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think it's going to move us in a direction where devs are going to reach their artistic visions, per se.
No, that's a really great point. Real quick, Infinite AA drops an additional $5 super chat. Dude, thank you for the generosity. It's greatly appreciated. He asks a question. Do you think that the Xbox Series X is, if the Xbox Series X is announced to be the hybrid, it will hold back the other consoles? And I'm going to tell you why I don't think that is. Again, I am not fluent in game design by any stretch of the truth. That's why I tune into Colt Eastwood and, of course, Dealer Gaming. Those guys, they know their shit. So that's what I tune into. But with the realization of the x86 architecture that's coming with these consoles, from what it was explained to me, scaling is not going to be a problem. Exactly. Meaning that they're going to scale super high for the maximum, most expensive Xbox, and then be able to, without any problem, without any leaving anybody behind, scale down for the other console or consoles. Now, I'm going to say this. Within 2 years, you could imagine, and it might be sooner, that the Xbox One S and X will no longer be available. And if you own them, you could potentially be left behind unless Project X Cloud is incorporated into the into the OS of the boxes across the board, where that the cloud will be able to do the heavy lifting, so to speak, for the more graphical intense titles. Again, I'm really speaking from not knowing that much. I do not try to sound like a technical genius by any stretch of the truth, because it's not my forte. But that's what has been explained to me. That's my understanding. But Zemi, I want to go to you on the Undead Labs. And again, I understand it may not be your bag, but is the State of Decay team in Undead Labs another one of these developers that people are just overlooking because of the size of the studio, because maybe that type of zombie experience is not what they're looking for? Maybe survival and horror combined, it's not the survival horror that they're looking for. Do you think that more people should look and see what Undead Devs oh my god
yeah, that studio.
Yes, Undead Labs. My God, what a boob. Do you think that people should be looking at this company the same way that they see a 343, same way they see a Ninja Theory or some of the other bigger acquisitions that they've gotten?
Well, I guess to start off, I actually am a fan of Undead Labs, and I did play State of Decay. It was co-op, so
Yes,
so long as I have my buddy, I'll just send him into the dark house with the screamer in there first. It's fine. But no, like I do like State of Decay, and I think a big reason why quite a few people are probably overlooking Undead Labs is very similar to Compulsion. Their last game was just not really that good. I think that they should have held out on State of Decay 2. I think they should have kept it in development. But they didn't, and it is what it is. Whenever the game first came out, it was kind of quite glitchy. On both, for PC players and for Xbox players, it was quite glitchy. The multiplayer tethering, I mean, like that's something, people were complaining about back during Fable 2. I don't know why they included that into this game. I think there was a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of good though in that game as well. With the other communities and stuff like that, how they revamped that. And how you could change maps and move your settlement away and all this different stuff. Like they made a lot of really good decisions, but they also did a lot of things, poorly. And for that reason, a lot of people kind of shied away from that game because it wasn't exactly what people wanted. You know what I mean? I mean, people have been screaming for years, and a lot of people thought that they were going to get multiplayer with the very first State of Decay, and us gamers had been waiting forever, and then it comes out and it's tethering. I don't know. I think they made a lot of mistakes. I think they should have held the game. I don't think it's fair to say in any way that State of Decay 2 was critically successful. I think more times, more ways than not, it probably really wasn't. I think a lot of gamers looked away from it. I think a lot of players who started playing it kind of went over to something else really, really quickly. And similar to Compulsion, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people aren't really looking at that studio all too seriously. But fortunately, they are now fully owned by Xbox. Xbox will give them the funding, and hopefully their next game is how they fully imagined it to be. Obviously, whenever they were developing State of Decay 2, they didn't have all the money, they didn't have all the resources. I think the game right before that was, an arcade game for the Xbox 360.
Yes,
so
that's correct.
I mean, how much money did they really make off that? I'm sure a lot, but not as much as like a AAA, $60 game would have. So I think the next time around, I think a lot of us will be pleasantly surprised with State of Decay 3.
Well, I mean, listen, I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you. First of all, I want to say this is an amazing show. And one last super chat, Infinite AA drops an additional $2 super chat, and he says, "I mean the Lockhart being a handheld / home console." Well, Semi and I we touched on this. It's my belief. Again, this is completely speculative on my part, that the Lockhart, even though Jez Corden feels in his heart of hearts that it's something different, it's not a traditional console. I decided to take what he said and run crazy with it, and streaking down the street naked, saying that this is going to be a handheld like the Switch. I'm probably wrong, no doubt about it. But if in fact they're why it wouldn't be held back is the same way you can play Gears 5 right now on your phone and it looks effing amazing, right? You can play Forza Horizon whatever on your phone right now through xCloud and it looks amazing. So if I'm sure that it would be the docked, it would have better graphics, obviously, but it would be a streaming based console. So you would be playing games off of the cloud the same way you would be playing on your phone. So I would imagine, again, I'm not a technical genius, but I would imagine the experience on your phone could easily be transferred to your TV via the docking, like it does with the Nintendo Switch. Now, whether or not that dock would have any hardware to make it more powerful, I'm not sure. Is it going to be self-contained to the possible handheld? Maybe. Is it going to be, is that docking unit going to be the one powering the power of the console? Again, I don't know, but it's an interesting theory, one that I hope does come to fruition, to be honest with you, because we've all heard Microsoft wanted to get into the handheld. They just didn't know how to get in there. Now they can with xCloud, and having a hybrid console like the Switch, like we talked about earlier in this particular podcast, could easily do very well in the Asian regions where they failed over the course of the last 10 years. And because it's portable, and because, the price of admission would be only, according from what we're hearing, is $300. And even if that person or said people want to spend that $300 on this hybrid console, $15 a month for Xbox Game Pass is not bad, and would be the, pardon my French, X factor in what would get them to buy this console and support it, because that amount of games for that amount of money, that includes xCloud, to take your gaming on the go, it would be a big selling factor. But again, this has been, my goodness, one heck of an Xbox Factor podcast. I want to thank everybody for being here. Of course, I want to immediately go right to my special guest, Stagorilla. First of all, dude, thank you so much for 2 hours of your time. I hope you enjoyed yourself. You had a lot of really interesting points, and it was a pleasure talking with you. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can come and find you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out what you do in your streaming.
Yeah, streams are okay. They're fun. I enjoy playing the indie titles. That's usually what I focus on. I'm on Twitch, twitch.com. Is it / or is it /? I don't know. Stagorilla, same as the name you see on the screen. Same as Twitter. I am Stagorilla. I try to keep that across all the platforms. I was unable to get that name on the PS4. There I'm Unicorn Stagger. But I focus heavily on indie titles. I mean, I play everything from AAA, AA to single A to fucking indie titles to games that are absolutely horrible that no one should play. But I like covering as much as I possibly can on my channels to give viewers or people look at things they might overlook, because a lot of people just hear that word indie and they automatically assume it's a trashy game. And I have experienced way more fun in the indie universe than I have in the AAA in the last couple of years. So that's where you can find me Monday through Friday, 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard on Twitch. And then you can always find me arguing about stupid shit on Twitter. I'm trying to do it a little bit less because it's just like I got, kids and life, and it's just stress I don't need. So thank you for having me on today. This was great. I really enjoyed my time. I hope that I was value added to you and to the chat, and everybody enjoyed the show.
Well, listen, I'm glad to have you on. I mean, we had talked while I was guesting on PTK Blam's weekly podcast a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad we were able to figure out a day and date. It was great to have you on. You had, like I said, you had a lot of interesting stuff, and yes, you did in fact bring value to today's show, which was epic. And of course, my regular co-host, you know him as, again, the bravest man in gaming, Zemi. First of all, dude, thank you so much for being here. I see that you are a stone throw away from 15,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel. That is epic and absolutely worth an applause. So you're getting a golf clap from me live on the air.
I appreciate it.
I want to thank you for, of course, being here and being a part of this particular program. Having you on is great each and every week, and you do really bring your A game. And I know that I've gotten a lot of messages of how you've increased the value of the show since arriving. So thank you for that. So do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out your growing and outstanding YouTube channel.
Well, absolutely. And, first off, thank you so much for setting up this show like you always do. It's fantastic. The topics were amazing. It was an absolutely fantastic show. If you guys want to, definitely check out my YouTube channel. It's Zimmy Games. I do gaming news, tutorials, all sorts of gaming content, let's plays, unboxings every now and then. So definitely check out my YouTube channel, and if you like what you see, click the subscribe button. That's it's called Zimmy Games once again. And then also check out my Twitter. It's at Zimmy Games. I always post just random stuff on there. I'm not as active as I should be, and I'm looking to hopefully get more active as time goes on. But my DMs are always open, and whether or not you agree with me or disagree with me or anything like that, always feel free to throw me a message in my DMs. I always reply back. And I love talking to the community and sharing different opinions and stuff like that. So thank you so much, Boom, as always. Oh, and I will be on tomorrow's show. I'll be on
Yes, you certainly will.
Or not the Xbox Factor. I was about to say Xbox Factor. I'll be on Breakfast with Boom tomorrow at 10 a.m. So
yes.
Yep, definitely come back for that.
Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. And of course, I have to thank real quick. I just seen him pop up in the chat, and I feel terrible that I didn't say hello. Lethal Papa, the enforcer of what makes these chats so good and a safe space for people to come and hang out. Lethal, thank you so much for being here, dude. Really appreciate it. And I want to close out today's show like I do always. First of all, treat others how you want to be treated. And guess what, folks? It doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by these rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. Take care, and we will see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Have a great day, everyone.